Okay, so we're going to get started. This is Swiss Game Hub, and we are talking about community management. I will introduce our panelists. To my left, we have Alice Ruppert, who is the queen of horse games. She said that I could say that. She runs a blog called The Main Quest, which is about horses and games. She's also the president of the Swiss Game Developers Association, and she works for Acer Interactive on horse games.
I do.
Then we have Philomena Schwab, who co-founded Stray Fawn Studios, who is one of the members of the Swiss Game Hub. She also co-founded Swiss Game Hub, and Stray Fawn's latest game is The Wandering Village, which is a game about building a town on top of a giant animal. And last but not least, we have Nuria Massa, who works at Blindflug Studios. Their most recent game, their upcoming game is Ground of Aces, which is a World War II air base building simulator. And she works in marketing and community management. And finally, there's me. I'm also co-founder of Swiss Game Hub, and I make a game called Airships Conquer the Skies. And so all four of us have various experiences in community management. I will do a combination of moderating and also bringing my own experiences where they're relevant.
Ranting,
yes. Okay, so yes, thank you all for coming. I'm really glad that we got this whole lineup. I'm very pleased about that. I'm going to start up with just asking some questions. Obviously, we can devolve into a discussion, but for now I have some questions. So, fundamental question, what's the point of even having a community for your game? I mean, people can just pay you money for the game and then play it and shut up, and that's great. So what's the advantage of having that?
Multiple advantages. So, firstly, probably motivation. Because if you're a solo dev or a small team and you're just working on your game in your little chamber for 3 years, unless you're coming to cool things like the Game Demo Night here at the Swiss Game Hub, it can be one of the most motivating things if you actually have players that are testing your game, giving you feedback, motivating you to fix that bug, get that new update out. At least for me, especially when I started out with my first game niche, when graduating, it really helped me stay on the project, continue on.
One other point would be they keep telling about the game to other people. They can help you reach new players. If they connect with each other, they are more motivated to talk about the game, to share screenshots, to share videos, stream about it. If they see, okay, there are other players, other fans, then it makes sense that I also create something or talk about it. So it motivates them each other to then spread the word.
And so in my case, I'm the communities that I'm actually most active in building up are a bit of an exception here because they're not dedicated to one game but to one topic. So my horse game communities, in which case one main motivation was mainly gathering a target audience and proving that it exists. So trying to create a mass of people that I could then point to and say, look, these people want games. That's working in part. It's not actually a critical mass of targets yet, but still. But yeah, I think generally just to add to what you two have said for a specific game, the main avenues are really in addition to motivation and ambassadorship are also just feedback. You're going to have a lot easier time activating people to become playtesters if they're already invested, and also things for example, polls can be an effective tool to use if you have people who care about your game. You can don't let them make important decisions, but you can let them make unimportant decisions and they'll feel really good about it.
And they can help you with localization for your game. They can help you to, for example, crowdfund your game, or as we heard, with marketing, spreading the word. There's a lot of benefits to it.
Yes, this also ties with my own experiences. For quite a long time, my game didn't really have an active community, and it eventually developed one. It's definitely been good in spreading the word, because if you're part of a game community, you will stay with the game even after the game itself is almost not the thing anymore. And you can get feedback, you can get a lot of community engagement from that. So following on to that, communities will sometimes just form naturally around the game anyway. Like people set up a subreddit, people run each other. So what's the advantage of actually being actively involved in your community? I mean, why to what degree should you go in there and kind of shape it, and to what degree can you just let them get on with their lives?
I would actually say that, like for me personally, I find that I either want to run the community or I want nothing to do with it. And that's not because I'm on some weird power trip, but because okay, maybe a little, but no, it's because actually like these benefits of community management that we've just discussed. Only if you run a community can you actually ensure that this happens. Or if you're very closely involved with the moderators, that can also be ensured. But I've just seen if you like it's possible that if you get involved in fan communities, that it's a lot of hassle for not actually that worth that we've talked about. I think the benefits of running it is because you can, for example, ensure that you get to tag everyone. Like, let's say it's a Discord server, you get to tag everyone when you have news, and you're not reliant on anyone else to do that. Or you can set up rules for, I don't want this topic to be discussed in my community. And because otherwise, if you're actively involved but not in control, the danger is that you'll end up discussing or like spending a lot of time discussing things you don't actually want to be discussing, or also just that people will insult you and you will not have like a good way to extract yourself from that, short of like leaving, which is just why I don't join communities that I deliberately did not join fan communities for the game I made, because I was like, no.
Yeah, I think the most important part is you are there from the start and you form the tone of the whole community. So whether or not the community space is a space you want to be in really depends on how the people talk with each other, how they talk to you, how much energy it costs you just to be there. And so I, especially in the early phase of starting a group, I'm like very, very careful that people are acting exactly the way as they should, because then that kind of forms the center of this community that more people then will be added to, but you will have this core group of people that will then help enforce your rules and your tone that you set at the beginning. So I really appreciate if I can do it from scratch if I'm doing it.
And I think by saying people act exactly like they should, we mean having like a baseline of human decency that we want in order to interact with them.
It's not about saying only getting praise. It's just
no, of course not. Like criticism. I mean, maybe that's something we skipped over before in terms of why it is worth having a community. Relevant criticism is very much one of those points. Like getting feedback from people who want to enjoy your game is generally a whole lot more valuable than feedback from people who just don't vibe with your idea at all.
Yeah, and for us it's also a bonding experience that if it goes positively, like you can instead of like just playing the game 1 week and then you never think about it, they have a reason to stay connected also with us. I mean, then you also include like live streaming things, like we did live streaming with one of our multiplayer games that also helps to keep the players engaged over a longer time. And if they know us, they know they can write to us on the Discord. This direct contact of course is also a big part, but it takes time and energy. But that's a reason why it could be nice to have your own community that you build up from the ground up.
A further advantage of having your own community that you control is, of course, also that you, for example, can set up bots or forums or whatever that, for example, help you gather bug reports, that help you gather feedback, that, inform people when there's relevant events. There's just, I would say that a good community that you run yourself can be a highly efficient marketing tool, whereas a community that you don't run yourself it's just a bit of a wild card. It can be fun. It can serve those purposes, but it can also get away from you real quick, and you have no guarantee that you can use it in the way you want it to, and then it can just be a huge waste of time.
And then you get these nice negative Steam reviews. I wanted to play the game, but the community is so toxic.
Or that.
We've seen that with a few indie games. If things are just getting out of control.
Yeah, of course, one of the problems there is that if you have a game on Steam, the game has Steam forums attached, and you can't properly moderate your Steam forums.
Do not. I tried. I have regrets. I deleted a thread once, and people are still angry at me about it in the Steam forums.
Yeah. Because you just have to beg the actual administrators of Steam to do moderation for you, and they, unless it's like an actually actionable death threat with your like address and a photograph of the knife they're gonna use, they will not do anything.
Steam, like Valve, actively tells people, don't do censorship. Don't tell users what they can say, and I'm like, they're lying. They're spreading lies about my game. Like, I don't know. In my case, it was like some people. Our game has mixed reviews, and the one user just started like, they've been using Unity assets for everything, and I'm like, our game is made in Unreal, and also, like, yeah, we've used some assets, but they just flat out started telling lies of like, saying that our horse models were store bought, which is like, no, I have reviewed all the horse models, and I know they're not this good.
Shot through the heart.
Shot through. Yeah. No. And then I deleted that thread, and if you go to our Steam forums now, there's probably still someone raging about how I dared.
Yeah, I think building up a good relationship with your community can help with getting useful feedback, because unfortunately a lot of gamers have this default expectation that game developers aggressively don't care about their problems, and it can make it extremely. A lot of gamers are likely to rant at you angrily about how your game is bad, but not actually give you enough details to figure out what they're angry about. They will just be like, oh, this game is so bad and the user interface doesn't work and it's got these bugs, and I'm like, yeah, well, but what bugs? What user interface problems?
Let's unpack this, please.
If you tell me, the developer, can literally go into the code and fix it, and it can be a lot of work getting people to kind of slow down out of their rage and actually tell you, and you have to build up this trust that yes, you are actually listening to them, and yes, you will actually listen to their problems and fix their problems, because the default assumption is that you don't care.
And it's really helpful if you have a rule against, like, I don't know, for example, insulting the developer in the course of getting feedback.
I mean, they're also probably a bit burned, because it happens sometimes that people basically just stole their money, when they bought an early access game, and then the developers abandoned it, and there's been some stuff going on. But yeah, the default level of trust is not very high.
And yeah, you can definitely prove their trust over time. Of course, new people keep on turning up, and they will again not have any trust. But if you're already trusted by your community, these new people will notice relatively quickly that actually everyone else is like, hey,
that's the best.
Actually, everyone else seems to be kind of happy with this. So.
It's the best when people defend you in negative reviews.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. If you don't have to tell people, and they're just like, yeah, you're wrong. It's like, you are. And I'm so glad I didn't have to post this myself. Yeah. So speaking a bit about organization, I guess let's kind of get to the start of it. Let's say you are developing a game, or you've just developed a game, you've just released a game. What should you do? How do you set up things? So what technologies do you use? What organizational structures do you use? How do you start with this community thing?
Before you release the game.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, we just did a Kickstarter, and for that we, 1 year before we did the Kickstarter, we already started collecting people who are interested in that game idea. Also, we had a first website, pictures, and like a pitch, and then we made a system with a newsletter sign up, that we first get their newsletter address, so that we can contact them when we have news about future crowdfunding efforts, for example. And then also we connected a Discord to that. And in our case, we tried something out that maybe other people usually never do. Our Discord is only accessible through the newsletter. And now we have certainly 1,000 people on the Discord. And I saw that the tone, the atmosphere is very non-toxic, positive. We have way less trolls, way less bots. All those typical problems that we also saw in our Discord of our other game, First Strike, where it's like an open Discord. You can get into it with a link in the game itself. We put the Discord link into the game. So there it's very easy to get into. So we have new users every day, but also users that wanted to cause problems, trolls, all that. And this direct comparison really showed us that even though some people complain, so I just want to go into Discord, I don't want to give you my mail address, we keep this system because the result is we have one community where people are really actually interested. They had to do some extra steps, but now we know they really took the effort. And with the more closed off community we have, it's much more easy. It's easier to build up a nice atmosphere, and I mean,
no scammers.
No. I mean, they need to go to the
that's too much
newsletter.
effort
They need
for them.
to confirm it. We also have they need to tell us their call sign because it's a game about pilots and airplanes. So this is another step. So I mean, Moritz, the co-founder of Blindflug Studios, he's he has more experience with online marketing, but he had this idea that we do really a funnel that only the people that are really interested get into the Discord. And at the moment we keep it like that.
I think this sort of it's gatekeeping in a way, but I mean that in a positive sense here, because I think what this illustrates really well is sort of a quality over quantity approach to community management, which I think is also, I don't know, something that I've learned over time of you don't want your community to grow at every expense. Just having more users doesn't mean your community is worth more. That is maybe the case if it's on follower-based platforms. More is always better. If it's just a platform on which you shout into the world, get all the followers you want. That's your main metric, and that's gonna only have advantages. Unless you buy followers, which is usually pointless. But generally speaking, I think in a community, it's actually, I would say that's kind of a non-obvious learning for people who start communities, that you don't want everyone in your community. You want people that matter, people who care, people that are capable of maintaining this tone that you're looking for. And so my communities that I run are easier to access than that, but I'm also, let me just say, I have a Facebook group with 14,000 people, and I have a Discord group with about 1,500. And if I mention the Discord on Facebook, I never post a link. I always tell people, go to a website and there you find the invite link. And the reason is very much the same. I don't want the mass of people.
I think it's just very important that when you start out, that you pick a community space where people can actually communicate with each other. Because sometimes I hear I have a Twitter community. It's not a community. It's just your followers, because you can talk to them, but they can't really chat with each other. So give them some kind of space where they can do that. Be it a good old Facebook group. Probably not anymore.
Depends on your target audience.
Right. Discord, nowadays, just the go-to thing. But I kind of like what Blindflug Studios is doing. We are also having an open Discord, and it's okay. Sometimes you have a bit of trolling going on, but rarely. But what's really cool about that is that once Discord goes away, because at some point it will probably go away, such as pretty much every other social platform we ever had, and you still have everybody on your mail address list, which is the most stable thing you can have in terms of reaching people again. It's usually their email address.
Get people's email addresses. You can never, ever trust any third party to not ultimately try and extract all the money from you and destroy itself in the process. It will happen.
Yep.
So get their email addresses somehow.
Sometimes what we do is like we run giveaways that we post in the Discord, but if you want to participate, you need to sign up to the newsletter and stuff like that.
So basically, you're using it the other way around.
Yeah,
you're
we're
using
doing it the other way around.
You're using your
Yes.
bigger Discord community to funnel into your newsletters. So.
Yes.
And I don't think there's really a better or a worse way here. It's just like, be aware that those are options.
So we're now heading into the section where I'm secretly just using this as an attempt to figure out how to run my community better. So I have a Discord with I think it's about technically like 3,000 people on it, but of course always the active number of users is smaller, you know. And I see people do all these amazing things with the community where they like get them to actually do things, and this never works for me. Like I tell them to I tell them to read a bit of text and give me feedback on it. It doesn't happen. I tell them to contact their favorite YouTubers and it doesn't happen. I tell them to do anything and maybe 2-3 people do it and nothing else happens. What's the secret? How do you get people in your community to actually do things that are useful?
Okay, my favorite example on this is when we basically threatened them that we would stop updating our game unless they help us get shit done.
Okay,
I love that.
blackmail, I like it.
So that was back with Niche when we were approaching the 1.0 release, and we looked at our bank account and we were like, yeah, if we don't manage to sell X amount of copies in the next months, then this game is finished because we really need to move on, otherwise the studio is kind of closing. And we told them that, and then they were like, what? Yeah, right, making games costs money. And they suddenly remembered. And we've been giving them free updates for like a year, and they were super involved because back then we still had a forum, and they posted their suggestions on the forum, and they voted for each other's suggestions. So they very much knew that all these cool suggestions, which we often took then and built into the game, never happen unless they did help us with the release. So we gave them like a to-do list, and many of them actually participated in it. We saw it very clearly in the amount of copies that we sold when we did most of it ourselves. This was the early access release, and then when they helped us, this was the 1.0 release, which is very untypical for a game. Usually your early access release is bigger, and then maybe this is your 1.0. For us it was like this, and it was really just because all these people wanted more updates for this game.
Okay, so you blackmailed them, and what did you tell them to do?
We told them to write Steam reviews. We told them to play the game during launch week because then their friends will see it. Gift it to friends. If they don't own it yet, buy it. Tell your favorite YouTuber and press. Retweet and share our Facebook announcements. That kind of stuff. And they did.
So basically turning all of those users into ambassadors, which is what Maria said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But first we had to give them a whole year of free updates and them actually voting what goes into the game, so they felt like this was their game and they had a lot of agency over the game, instead of if we had just worked on the game and like they didn't really feel included, then maybe that wouldn't have happened.
I mean, we had a bit of a similar campaign with First Strike, but at first we already had the content that we wanted to release as updates ready, but we told them, hey, we will do that, we will release that update, but you can make it that it will be released earlier than what we maybe have planned, because if we have like a certain goal, like we want to reach that number of followers on Twitch or more followers on Instagram, and when we reach that number, then we will release the update, and you have it like a month earlier than what we would usually do. And then we did that, but we didn't do just for one update, we had several updates, and then there were like phases, and at the very start it worked very well. Then after a while it was, I mean, they kind of saw it, okay, it's another time this concept, so it didn't work until the end. So we did continue it, but it went slower and slower. But still, that was like an experiment that we did. At the start, we really saw that people followed our channels more because we gave them like a guideline, like you can follow here, and then this gives like a point more to our progress bar, and then they can see how the progress bar goes up closer to 100%. And then so it's very simple things, like if you don't follow our Twitch channel yet, you can do that, and then even you help for that the release gets to you faster. So it's a very simple concept. We don't like completely blackmail them. We will still release it, but we can do it faster for them. And if they don't follow our channel, then you just have to wait a bit longer. And then at the start,
or ask all of your friends to follow.
Yeah, exactly. We also
I think what this boils down to basically is that even once you have built up a community, you can't necessarily just expect them to do things for you, which is give you feedback, read your shit, do your things, promote your game, be an ambassador. But you can activate them if you offer them something in return. Even if it's like, of course, naturally it's something that you have been doing anyway. It's like developing your game or releasing your updates, but sort of maintain some wiggle room that you can then use as bargaining chips with your community is what I'd like conclude from this.
We have one thing coming up that I'm really curious how it will go. We have the first anniversary of the Wandering Village, where we're doing an update, and then we have an event in the game where you can celebrate Onbu, that's the big creature's birthday, like Arno and Marcus are working on it, where you have like fireworks and a little birthday song, and then we're like tracking how many people did that, and then depending on how many people, and we're communicating this in the Discord. Yeah, if X people celebrate Onbu's birthday within this week, we're doing a giveaway with whatever. And I'm really curious, and it's like tracks in the game. Very curious to see how motivated they will be.
Yeah, so speaking of feedback, so as I said, like communities can be really helpful for feedback. Do you want to talk a bit more about how to handle community feedback? How do you get actually useful things out of there?
So I think one general guideline for playtesting feedback is always listen to what people's problems are, never trust them on what the solutions are. Yes. Like playtesters will tell you, like, I don't know, this level is too hard, and I don't know, you should make it easier. Like the controls are bad. Do them like this instead, or whatever. And usually you need to start like reading between the lines, and usually you can't do that from just a single person's feedback, but like on aggregate, you can start seeing like sort of patterns in between of like, oh, so these people all had the same issue where they didn't understand that feature, and then that in turn made it hard for them to blah blah blah. And that's just like a general approach for how to deal with feedback that applies regardless of whether you're at, say, a testing night or or gathering like or analyzing Steam reviews or whatever. I don't know. Apart from that, like to collect feedback, it's really useful to collect it in a quantifiable way. For example, like even if you have a Discord, it might be worth doing a Google form where people can just say how much they like a thing on a scale to 1 to 7 or whatever. My main thing about player feedback is like read between the lines. Feedback is super important, but you cannot trust that people know what's best for your game.
Different things. So one thing I'm finding really useful is actually watching people play your game, because it gives you so many insights. And if you can't do it live, say at a game testing event, then you could also just ask friends to play it and screen record and maybe talk over it a little bit. That's a great help. That's something that we're doing with one of the games we're publishing right now, and it helps more, in my opinion, than if we just send him lots of feedback. And yeah, it's best.
That's also something you can use your community for. It's like activate your community to record themselves playing your game and comment aloud. It's something you can do online with community members.
One thing that we did for the Wandering Village that I really liked was that we basically asked 2 YouTubers that are playing city builders if they could make a video of our game, but not to release it, but just to play it in an early stage and give it to us as a feedback video, and we paid them for it. They said nobody has ever done that with them. I said, but it's very useful because these are experts of the genre, and you already have a relationship with them. So when it comes out, you can say, hey, by the way, we implemented X, epsilon, Y of your feedback, and then they're maybe more likely to cover it in a video, potentially. What I really liked also is what we did for our beta test. We did a beta test with 6,000 people, and we always only invited like 200 or 300 people at once. We had a huge feedback form that you had to fill out, and for everything, for the game's balancing, how well did you understand UI X and Y, which was like 10 to 15 minutes if you were filling it out. And then we always looked at what these 200 or 300 people were saying, especially the ones that had the worst overall ratings for the game, tried to fix that. And the game started at like a 7 out of 10 total rating. And after several months of iterating, we were at a 9 out of 10 rating. And it was always new players. I think that is very important. Because if they have already played it before, they have an impression of it, they already kind of know. And the feedback is just not the same anymore. And that feedback from the beta test was pretty much exactly what we ended up with Steam reviews. So I'm even more inclined to do this again next time.
Yeah, I think that the point of splitting your interested user base, so in this case where you have thousands of people that are interested, do not just send your game to thousands of people, because you're wasting first impressions. I noticed that, wait, where was it? Oh, that was actually when we playtested some games for Air Console, where it wasn't a huge test. We did it like on site. Yeah, I don't know. In Zurich at some point. And on the first day we had maybe like, I don't know, 3 groups of 4 people playing the games. And by the third group I was like, damn it, we should have done this in separate portions, because we don't have time to fix the thing that we now know is a main problem for people. Yeah. And then I had to test it again with another 12 people the next day, and I already knew that what would be the main issues, and I couldn't get a build in time. So definitely, even like, I mean, in our case it was very few people, a lot fewer than in yours, but prepare for that iteration instead of blowing all your attention on a single playtest, because chances are that if it's your first kind of playtest or whatever, you'll notice some tendencies really, really fast. I can add one more thing. For Horse Tales, the games that we released last year, we realized very shortly after release, basically we did playtests with the community before release, and shortly before release we were like, can we do another playtest? And I'm like, well, we don't really have the capacity to adapt their feedback, so we're not doing one, because we can't really react to it for budget and resource reasons. But then once the game is out and we had all that feedback on Steam, yeah, we suddenly found the resources to react to it, right? Because it was we had those mixed Steam reviews, and so like that was a huge learning for us. Like even if you can only invest a single day, a single whatever, like a few person hours into the results of the playtest, assuming that you have capacity to conduct it, but that wasn't the problem in that case particular. Even if it just shows you your one most important issue, it can still be super important feedback. And even if you don't have time to like implement suggestions, it can still showcase pain points that you can then rebalance or address in some way, shape, or form.
There's also a lot of people that are trying to wait as long as possible before they playtest, because they are Swiss. They want to make everything perfect, and then they start playtesting their game after 2 years or so, and then you find fundamental issues that you cannot fix anymore. Please start it as soon as you have something that is even barely playable. You can sit next to the person if you really have to and explain things, but if you test early, you can catch so many big things that will be an issue down the line.
For example, added game hub testing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, the majority of game ideas I have don't work. They just don't work. I make a prototype, I test it, and I'm like, this is not actually fun.
It's because you don't have horses in them.
Because I don't have horses in them, which is my mistake.
Giant dinosaurs.
But yeah, that's the thing, right? You can convince yourself that this idea is really good, and it just turns out to be fundamentally bad. And as soon as you notice that it's fundamentally bad, sooner you can do something else with your life.
The whole fail fast thing.
Yeah, fail fast, exactly.
I mean, for us, we will have an alpha release of the game that we're working on now. So the things you're telling us here now, I will use that.
Nice.
Because I only was part of a smaller multiplayer test that we did for First Strike, and there we did go through our Discord and also bug reports, and we picked like users that we thought, okay, I think we can trust them to give us actual usable feedback, because we see in the bug reports they actually write good reports. So we have forms for bug reports, we have forms for feedback, and then where they can also leave their email address if they want, or then of course the Discord has a separate channel for feedback and all that, and there we were able to pick users. Of course they are biased, they are probably more the hardcore players, but for this test that we wanted to do, that was okay, because it was the first time that we were able to test the multiplayer with a full lobby with people from all around the world, which we couldn't do by ourselves. So for that it was very helpful.
And people are not gonna have the same computer setup as you. So if you think you did a playtest with 10 people, you think you're prepared, you're not prepared. People, even after a few thousand people, new things are still showing up, always. But so the more people, the better.
And speaking of hardcore players, I think it's, especially for my game, which has been around for almost 10 years, it's a thing I have to be constantly aware of, because people who've been playing the game for years and years have a really different perspective on it. And it's totally a useful perspective. But the thing is, you're really trying to sell the game to new people. And those hardcore players will absolutely, if you don't take care, push in a direction where you make a game that's really cool for them and completely inaccessible to anyone else. I think in particular it can sometimes be a problem that, because you want to listen to them, that some people develop this idea that if they just nag you enough about something, you will do it, and they will just be on your case endlessly. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? And that the reason is just I'm not going to do this because no one cares apart from you, literally. No one else cares. Or you asking me to do 3 months of work for something that's basically unimportant.
And the danger of that is, of course, that the new people that you haven't reached yet aren't there in your community representing their own interests. So to those power users, it can really appear that everyone wants this.
Yes.
Because the 10 people shouting the loudest are definitely those who want that. And that's definitely just something to be aware of. Do not expect your community to grow aware of it. Don't expect that from them. They don't have to.
Yeah.
But you have to keep it in mind that your power users don't speak with the best interests of your new users in mind.
Yeah, and I do think it's good to listen to your community, but you do have to make sure that you're still able to say just no, and even no, I'm not going to do this. I know you don't understand the reason why, but I'm still not going to do this.
Yeah.
It really helped me with this when people can actually understand why, especially if it's problems with the vision. So with the Wandering Village, we always every day you have somebody new saying, when are the giant dinosaurs fighting? And I'm like, no, never. And it's even in the FAQ, but nobody reads the FAQ. But the core community has understood that no, we're making a peaceful game. Yes, there is challenges, but it's not a game about fighting. So they will jump in and answer it for me with, no, this is not in the dev's vision. It's supposed to be a peaceful thing, blah, blah, blah. And also when we're not implementing things, I would probably exactly tell them yes, I know you would really like to have this. It will be a lot of work, and I don't think a lot of people. But if you're in the middle of a group and then you're fighting against everybody, I understand when you're like,
Yeah, of course, whenever possible, it's nice also to build that community feeling, to explain to them very honestly why,
yes,
but you still need to be able to put your foot down and say, look,
yes,
I agree it would be nice, but it's just not worth it. You're asking me to put in multiple months, and yes, it would take multiple months. I know you think it would be easy, but it would not be easy for this tiny corner of the game. And yeah, one thing I deploy quite a lot also when people end up taking a lot of my time for motivation, I'm like, do you understand that being one single developer, you've just cost me half a day in just moderating your nonsense? This is half a day where I was not working on this specific named feature. I was working on this named feature. It's going to be half a day late because you started a fight.
We sometimes even had people in the Discord that like, but here it's very easy. This is the code that you have to write to implement this feature. Like, no, it's not, but thank you very much.
It's just pasted in. It's like, it doesn't compile somehow. Yeah.
It's also, I think that's also just something that you need to expect in terms of, like, your player base will, or like, there's always going to be a contingent of your player base that thinks they know better than you, that like things they can explain to you how your game's supposed to work, and also Philo mentioned something before about like sort of giving your community a sense of ownership almost, like yes, making them feel involved, you want to make them feel heard, etc. But the flip side of that is, of course, gamer entitlement, TM, which is not an argument to not make your community feel involved, but just something to like keep in mind. Like, if the community feels like they have a very, very active role in developing your game, it can backfire very hard in terms of like that. If they think they know all of your problems, they have a tendency to try and solve those for you, except they never will understand and they never will investigate their actual own time, and as you say, they consume your time arguing about it. So like, I don't know, I think it's a question of like, for me personally, I feel like by now I have like, I have sort of developed a sense for that tone of like where is that balance between those things, which takes time and learning and pain.
Depends on the community.
Very much, but I do think it's. So I don't have a recipe for how to balance entitlement versus involvement, but I do think it's something that you should look out for and keep in mind.
Yep.
Also, I learned to tell myself, you can't make everyone happy.
Yeah.
It's not possible. And at some point, you just have to tell them, the thing that you want, we can't do it. We don't have the resources. We don't earn enough with this game to keep updating it for free. That's also like very typical. They always expect new content to be free forever. Like 7 years later, where's the new update with new content? And then at some point now we actually like tell them, hey, we don't sell enough to keep doing updates. We need to see that there's enough interest. So if you want to show your support, you can do this and that. But just because you say it right here, that doesn't make it true that we now have the means to fulfill every wish you have. And then I had one funny situation in the Steam forum where I told them that our game First Strike, it's more popular on mobile. We have way more players on mobile than on PC. That's why we did our updates on the mobile version first, and we focused on that version. And then he just wrote back, yeah, I don't believe that. I'm sure it's more popular on PC. I'm like, you don't have the numbers, you don't actually see what's happening. But that's how they think. They're just, PC is so much more important than mobile. Of course, Steam sales must be higher than mobile. It doesn't make sense, but for them, that's the only world they have. So yeah, then you can't argue with that. Then it's just lost cause.
Yep. Maybe one thing that you sort of touched upon is also something to be prepared for. So like, that if you're in that situation where you keep getting a request and you have to decline it because it's not in your game vision or it's not in your budget, in your scope, in whatever, that you sort of like channel that energy into something productive. So what you said, like, we don't have the budget for this. If you go and tell 10 people about the game right now, like that would help towards that goal. So like sort of redirect all that energy that they're gonna end up arguing in your messages instead towards a productive goal. So you can't do that with everything, of course, but you can. I don't know. I think it can be a method of like knowing where to point people if they come at you with that much energy, and people will come at you with a lot of energy. And so like knowing where to redirect that can be useful. And it's also, if you do this for a while, community management, I mean, you end up also being able to anticipate which sort of energy people come at you with. Especially, for example, in preparation for certain updates, that you, for example, can anticipate certain points of criticism that will show up, and you can prepare answers for that. You can prepare what you will, like where you will point people that are perhaps going to be angry about that. So maybe to quickly make an example for that, I did community build up for a mobile game about horse racing. Everything I do is horses. There was one update where we, the community managers, just knew like that's not going to be popular, and developers were like, we know, but this is going to be the next update. And basically what I and the other community manager did was just like, or she was kind of worried. She's like, how are people going to react? And like, how do you think they're going to react? Write down your 10 biggest fears as comments to me. And so we did that like 2 weeks in advance of the update. She wrote like, I hate this. This is so stupid. Why did you do this? Everyone wanted something different. And then I, like, calmly, knowing it was her, prepared like answers that made sense for such statements, from this is against our community rules, please leave, or like banned, to like just answers like, well, these are our priorities right now, da 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 da. So like community management, I think, is at its most difficult when you feel like everything's on fire. But it doesn't have to be. You can prepare. You can prepare for like an FAQ is the simplest way to take work off your own hands. But like I said, you can also do that in anticipation, or like say like someone reacted in this way to a thing I did and I wasn't sure how to react. Like, take that time, prepare your processes, think about what you really want, think about what is the purpose of this community. Does this thing help the purpose of this community? Do I just need to ban this person, or do I need to, like, can I funnel this into something productive for this community? And just, like, react to it accordingly. By the way, that's also something like, communities can give you the feeling that everything needs to be solved right now, otherwise it's too late. Do not fall for that. I sometimes write people a message on Discord that their comment was rule breaking, even if 500 messages have been posted since, and a week has passed. Like, I've done that. Some people get very angry when you remind them. They're like, why are you dragging up old drama? Like, bitch, it's been 3 days. And like, that's also something that's really helped me. Like, no, it's not the moment has passed. This person did a rule violation, and I will not just let it slide because I didn't happen to be online at the time and my mods weren't sure how to react.
When in doubt, ban them.
Yeah.
Because quality over quantity, we've been over this. We're building up a theme here.
Yeah, so yeah.
Game testing night.
We'll get on to moderation. We'll get on to moderation in a moment. Yeah,
Okay.
I think one thing, it's just to start this, that yeah, things will not explode overnight. Or, you know, one really useful tool is just muting people temporarily if you're just like everyth's on fire.
Close your channels.
Just
stop
like,
everyone from posting.
Just close the
Take
channel,
away their
or
permissions.
mass mute. Just mass mute 20 people and be like, look, you all need to calm down.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's okay. You didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but we're just gonna calm you down.
Which is going to help calm you yourself down as well.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing, I mean, there's this nice psychological theory that really human emotions sort of work on two axes. There's intensity and there's valence, so good or bad and how strong. And so, yeah, people who have high intensity can flip back and forth between good and bad actually pretty easily, and so you get people who kind of love your game except for all of a sudden they hate you. That's just kind of how strong.
Yeah.
So yeah, moderation. I'm just going to put that word out there and you can scream.
Sorry, did you say
moderation?
Moderation. I understood motivation. No, moderation. Okay, so for me, the most important things in moderation is that, first of all, I think in gaming relevant spaces, you cannot have a neutral stance on whether or not you want to allow bigots in your community. This is not possible. You are responsible for the space you create, and if you are not strict about what you ban and shut down, that space will turn toxic very easily. That can be generally toxic in the sense of unkind, or it can be sexist, racist, homophobic, transphobic, whatever. So I'm a big fan of just flat out telling everyone discrimination against any gender or sexuality or romantic orientation, blah blah blah, blah list is not allowed, and we will ban you. And I know there's like, so this is something like, I don't know, people are new to community management will sometimes have like, I don't know, a no politics rule or something like that, which I think is highly like problematic, or just like not actually enforceable, a lot more complicated than you think it is. So yeah, I just by running a community, you enforce your own politics no matter what. Be consistent about it and decide on them in advance.
Yeah, so I want to just mention something to this. So I have almost a no politics rule in my Discord. It's not quite a no politics, it's no political discussions rule. And the specific point I make there is that it's not that I don't think politics are important. I think that we don't have the moderation resources to do it justice.
But the key difference there is what people consider political.
Yes, and
because
of course
some
it's
people,
a lie.
Yeah, because some people will see you have a black character in your game and start asking like, why?
Yeah.
Is that a political discussion? Yes, it is. And so sort of like that, I think just
and then of
topics
course,
like that are really...
Yeah, and then of course right next to the no political discussion rule, there's a really long list of things that you can't discriminate against, which is absolutely political. So what I actually mean is we have a specific... we have a whole bunch of political stances you're going to have to at least pay lip service to, otherwise you get kicked, and apart from that you can't discuss anything further.
Do you really need the no politics discussion in that case?
In his Discord, yes.
Oh God, yes. Look, the most
I guess you're making a war game.
Let me give you an example. The most recent drama was about someone who was really into the Russian White Army, that is to say the Tsarist anti-revolutionary army back like 120 years ago. And he got in a huge fight into someone who believes that the Soviet Union, at least the early Soviet Union, was really great. That's the sort of bullshit I'm talking about.
You don't have these problems with horse gamers.
And that's
I mean, I've had a lot of problems with horse gamers, but no, not these exact ones.
So that's what I mean. I mean, like, look, we all got to agree that yes, we all hold our hands happily together, and discrimination is bad, and obviously you get banned for that. But then we are not going to talk about military history to the point where people get upset, because these people get upset about weird things that happened 120 years ago, and that's what I mean by the rule.
Yeah. I think what it boils down to is basically again that when you start a community, you need to decide what your purpose is for it.
Yes.
And maybe you want to run a political discussion space.
God help you.
Don't. But probably you want a space where you can reach your community and get feedback for your game, and like your rules need to reflect that. And what is or isn't off topic for your channel, for your community server or whatever, like that depends. Maybe like I don't know, on maybe posting pictures of your pets is a good way to get your users to engage and like share content. On the other hand, maybe you're just gonna suddenly have someone who posts their dog with a docked tail, and suddenly you have a discussion of like, how dare you mutilate your dog, or you know, shit like that. Like
that's
that, right?
the stuff that happens in the niche Discord.
Yeah,
Yes.
mine too.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh,
with all
your
these,
rats are in a much too small cage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
See, we get pet drama. We don't get war drama. We
Yeah.
get pet drama. Don't think it's less intense.
No.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, the First Strike is also a game that invites political discussion very fast because it's a nuclear war game. You can play as USA, Russia, North Korea. And there we also have the rules of no controversial political discussions. And our thinking is like, they can do that everywhere else. They don't need to do that on our Discord.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly, which is what it boils down to, like that purpose. So like, prepare a set of rules for your community where you can say, guys, this is super interesting, take it outside. Like, you want to be able to say that, because otherwise it's your problem. If it happens in your community and people start...
Again, moderating this kind of discussions that go through the whole night, and then you're not even awake for it, that's a...
At least you don't have teenage girls fighting over who has the cuter cat.
Oh, wow.
Well,
That happens.
but yeah, it's the your Discord or whatever your community has to be about your game. Logically speaking, everything else is nice to have. And if in doubt, if it's an ongoing problem, shut it down. We had briefly in our Discord, we have an art channel which works fine. People post what they draw, they post some fan art and so on. This is really nice. There was a group of people, but because it's Discord, you know, it has to be safe for work. And you can have not safe for work channels. And there was a fairly large group of people who were like, look, we just sometimes want to maybe draw someone in a sexy steampunk outfit and post them without getting deleted. And I was like, yeah, okay, you know, that's understandable.
Then do it somewhere.
Well,
else.
and so we tried. We had a not safe for work art channel, and it shut down after like a week. Because the problem is that the majority of people, when they see, they have no understanding of the difference between yes, we will also allow sexy steampunk outfits, and absolutely anything goes. So the moment you mark the channel as not safe for work, people just think it's just free for all. And so
That's funny. I do have an adult channel on the Horse Game Discord, and it works relatively well.
No, it just unfortunately it just failed catastrophically. We just tried, and people would just use. We couldn't communicate to people that no, this isn't a free-for-all channel. This is just merely art that might show some boobs, and it didn't work. Yeah.
One more thing is that aside from these rules, like that are very clear, no racism, sexism, and so on, in the end, I had to add an additional rule, which is just constantly spreading negativity in the community. Because sometimes you just have people, they don't break rules. They're just there, months and months, and they kind of drag everybody down. And they kind of talk about their private life a bit too much, and they're kind of offended a bit too much. But it's just like, it's not really a rule break, and then you kind of try to talk to them, give them some warnings, but they continue. So at some point I was just like adding this rule. If I told somebody once or twice that the tone is not okay, and they're still doing it, out, because I used to be much too patient.
I think that's the song of our people in community management, though. Like, you start out with a lot of patience, and eventually you're like,
I had like a girl.
Hold the edge of that rule out.
I had like a girl that was like 15 or 16, and I basically turned into her psychotherapist. Where I had to write private messages with her and like, I felt better, but now I'm feeling worse, and that's why I'm insulting everybody a little bit. And then I mean, it's
Do not answer private messages. No. I mean, not like if somebody contacts you like, hey, I saw a rule violation, like that's something that I think is fine for like. But I had that in the Wild Shape Discourse, the horse game I was talking about. Like people would sometimes just like comment to my DMs, like, because that Discord had like, I don't know, 3,000 or 4,000 people. They would just come in like, hey, can I talk to you? Can I send you this? And I was like, no.
Yeah.
No.
You can close your DMs.
Yeah, I know, but I need them for other purposes. But
for specific Discord DMs. I think.
Well, but I have them. I have
you
them
want,
public,
yeah.
on, like for a reason. It was not a
I
volume where I
understand.
needed to change that, but it was definitely where I was like, "Hey, so can I give you feedback for the game?" No, post it in our feedback channel. This is not happening in my DMs. And for in addition to what you said regarding like rules, so like first of all, yes, absolutely keep your rules flexible. Add them as you need to. Even if you read 5 examples of server rules before starting your own, you will still make your own learnings and have to add. Something that I found very freeing to add to our server rules is moderators will enforce the spirit of these rules and not their exact wording. So if a moderator tells you to do a thing, do it or you're out. And if a moderator tells you broke a rule, I do not care if you disagree. Like,
How do
no.
you pick moderators?
I got lucky. I just made like 4 really good friends when I started this, and they've been with me ever since.
Nice. Because it can be pretty hard, I think.
Yeah.
I also once had a situation where I picked somebody as a moderator, which was a person that was very active, and I thought they were very respectful. And then later people told me like, hey, this person is so weird. And then I kind of had to remove them as a moderator, and that scared me like, ooh, maybe I'm not seeing the whole picture if I'm just...
Yeah, it can be a
scrolling
problem. I
through
mean,
the-
one of the problems with Discord is that it can be weird back-channel stuff in DMs where
Yeah.
you're just like, all of a sudden there's a huge fight and you're like, where did this come from? Well, the answer is they've been fighting for a week through DMs and
Yep.
you didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we had fans who were really into the game already, because we started the First Strike Discord late. I mean, the game was already out for several years, so we had like very hardcore fans joining the Discord right at the start, and we already knew some people through like Instagram or Twitter contacts. So for that, we were able to get like really active and fans that we knew that we could trust. But of course, there were also cases where there were like fights between moderators. So yeah, besides that, I don't know anything better
So,
than you
one
have
thing-
to try it out and also take it away when you see it doesn't work.
Two methods I employed when running the Wild Shade Discord was, so first of all, I started by bringing in moderators from like that I already knew from a different community,
Nice.
which had some overlap because I like for a horse game from the horse game community. So like, yeah, obviously. It wasn't an exact overlap though. I took some people that I just knew as users from the other community, but like knew them well enough to trust them. And then within that new Discord, I ended up getting a positive impression of new users. And then we ended up implementing like a tiered mod system. So we had like
That's a good idea.
our 2 community managers, and then the senior mods who were people I really trusted and had known for years, versus like moderators who were relatively
Yes.
new. And we had a senior mod channel where we could discuss if the moderators were fucking up.
Yeah.
And that was really...
And were they?
Mildly, but no, it worked relatively well.
Nice.
There weren't any not any major issues. So generally speaking, it went well. And we also had the really clear policy on there that if the moderators were not sure how to react to something, that just like discuss it, like tag a senior moderator first in the private channels, and just like ask for that.
Were the junior moderators allowed to ban and kick people?
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. What I also did in that case, by the way, I already mentioned that we sort of prepared messages for common points of criticism. What I also did was just basically have a whole channel just for moderators of like what to do in which situation. So like, if I don't know, some YouTuber talks shit about the game and they bring 5,000 new members, all talking trash or something, like, here is how you shut down the server until I'm back online. You know, like stuff like that. Just have like a contingency plan for every sort of fuck up that could possibly happen. And thankfully it did. We did end up closing the server, so I think it did a little bit. But I think that also helps people. Even if you end up not using those contingency plans, it helps the moderators stay calm in stressful circumstances. And the thing is, especially on a Discord server, stressful circumstances can happen really, really fast. Speaking of which, turn on time limits on your channels. If you want to just turn down the volume, just Make it so that everybody can only post like every 5 minutes.
So they can actually reflect on what is in front of the, on the screen.
It's
before
highly
they
effective.
can hit enter.
Even just a 10-second cooldown makes a difference. People are like force people to take a breath every once in a while. It really helps.
Mm-hmm. So I also think it really depends on your target group here again, and like also what age group. Because, for example, in the Wandering Village Discord, I'm feeling like we have more older players, like 20 upwards. That's at least my impression.
Ancient.
Yeah, I mean, just compared to the niche Discord, where people are pretending to be 13, but I know they are not.
Which is what you should report to Discord, by the way.
Yeah.
That is against terms of service. Report people who are underage.
Yes, do that. If they, like, how old are you? 13. How am I gonna prove that they are not actually 13?
I've legit sent DMs to people where I'm like, I don't know. I didn't actively lie to them, but I said like, hey, we're asking around a bit, like how old are you? And then they actually told me they're 11 or 12.
No, mine no. They're smart about it.
Get dumber 11-year-old.
Yeah, get dumber. Now at this point they're now 14 because the game is already so old. But yeah, if you have a bit. So with the Wandering Village Discord, we now have 22,000 people in the Discord.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, and like 5,000 or so came in just over the last 2 weeks, and they're pretty chill.
Nice.
We only have like maybe 4 moderators. I think I need to get more moderators now, but no major issues are happening. So I'm like,
which is why that tone in the beginning is so important, because yanking a community back around once they're pissed at you is perhaps not impossible, but really hard. I would much rather build up a community from the beginning, the way like to cultivate that tone than to turn one around that's already gone sour.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think what I try to do is that whenever there's a big influx of users, I say hi to the new users and tell 2 things to the existing users, which is, 1, it's your job to acclimatize these people and welcome them. And 2, don't use your seniority as some kind of bullshit thing to say I'm better than you. Because people do this so often. Yeah. So I think one thing, like with Discord, but also with other things that can be super useful, is bots. You can use bots for all kinds of tracking stuff and moderation and so on. I have a bot which actually need to tell the moderators to use that more yet. I have a bot that has a warning system, so you can just warn people. Actually it has this whole system for like if people get X number of warnings, then they get silenced. I turned all of this off. All it is, so nothing bad happens if you get a warning. But the point is that it allows us to build records of people, and so we can see, hey, if this person is sort of borderline, does something that's borderline, we check their warnings, and if there's already 20 warnings, we're like, goodbye. If this is the first thing, we're like, hey,
do it after 3.
Yeah, whatever. 20 was an exaggeration. Also, then if I'm looking for moderators, of course, I can say, okay, I think this person is reasonable, but do they have any warnings?
That's good.
I think it makes a lot of sense to use bots for that. I don't, out of laziness, and what I have instead is a red flag channel, and we just post it in there. Like if somebody's being an ass or being weird about our server rules, we post it in the warning channel, in the red flag channel, and then afterwards, if we see something again, we can check that channel for if something similar has occurred, and then we just by now we just basically like we give one warning of saying like, hey, this is your chance to follow the rules, otherwise you're out.
And really, someone who persistently gets within 0.5 millimeter of breaking the rules is someone who needs to be kicked. Because people are calculating this.
And because maybe if that's not completely intuitive, the reason for that is because otherwise these people end up consuming so much of your time that your community and your community work cannot function as they're supposed to be anymore. So like if you, and I think this is also something that you could track, like if you realize that one user or 1 or 2 users take up like 15 minutes of your time every second day, like that adds up, and you cannot tolerate this.
Yep, spent probably like 10 hours total talking to this one person.
I've had similar
Never again.
experiences. Yeah.
So one difficult, like I'm thinking of some specific people here, but one difficult thing with this is I found what happens sometimes is that there's a user who's okay actually, but they're thin-skinned, and the community gets into a habit of bullying them. And what usually happens is that they end up leaving. And I'm not super happy with this outcome, because it is actually the community who's misbehaving towards them and provoking them into lashing out. And it's a bullying situation.
I have a no bullying rule.
Yeah, but the problem with these people is that they don't realize that they're bullying.
Then tell them that
I'm trying.
on this server this is considered bullying.
I'm trying to, but
Warning
it's really
one.
an education thing where I have to tell them, look,
It's not your
that
job.
that thing where you think, oh, it's okay, we all just like to make fun of this guy, it's okay, that's what bullying feels from the inside, and you have to stop it.
Yeah, and if they do it again, they're kicked.
Yeah.
Because it's not your job.
Unfortunately, the people I'm talking about are also some of the core people in the community.
Then they have to get out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really...
Even more so than...
It's really
otherwise.
hard, because you need to... Yeah, but you...
And they find otherwise, I know it's a red flag.
But they're,
if you say,
they're nagging you, and you cost you nerves. It's their job to give you positive, or at least neutral emotions.
Yeah, to put this, to take this somewhere spicy, that's the same thing as saying, he only hits me when he's angry.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
It's not an excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make an example of one of them.
I have been starting to make examples of them, yes.
Yeah. Good. It can really... I think if you've never managed a community, it sounds really weird, probably, the way we're talking about these people, but you need to realize how much time and energy these individual people that you gain nothing from end up consuming of your professional time.
10,000 people, perfectly well behaved, perfectly good, and then one person who takes up.
Yeah,
like
if you know the one
so
guy by name on your Discord and it's not in a positive way, he probably should not be there.
Yeah. And of course, you know, one of the things also is that what we're talking about is sort of, it's a parasocial relationship. And I think one of the other questions is also, how do you present yourself? And I think there's a lot of different approaches there, because some developers would be really like, we are company name incorporated and we are this faceless monolith, and other people are like, hi, I'm Steve. And I think they have advantages and disadvantages both. I don't know if you want to talk about sort of your experiences in how human do you appear to people, in which ways do you show your humanity, in which ways you don't.
In my case, I'm very human, and like I use my face as a profile picture and my first name as a username. So I'm very transparent in that regard and very like personal. I do have people I consider friends on my Discord that I met on this Discord, and I have talked about, like, I do sometimes talk about personal stuff, and so like this I don't know, this is really a community where there's also space for that, because it was always partly because when I started it, I didn't have such clear goals for what was and wasn't part of this community. There was definitely also moments where people asked me, like, can we get a channel for this also? Like, no, we have to stop. We can't be everything. Like, if you want to discuss this, do it somewhere else. But yeah, so I do have friends on there, and I do talk about like personal stuff. But I would never do that again if I built up a community for a specific game, because that would not be the purpose. Not the name though. I do use the name and face is something that I personally make more good experiences with than bad. But I do think it can turn sour real quick. So for example, I know of one game that they had a big Discord community before their launch, and then they released, and the game wasn't exactly what people were hoping it to be, and their moderation team were like community ambassadors, and the dev team didn't really, in my opinion, give the moderators enough guidance for how to react. So the whole community basically turned against them, and like just it got really, really toxic. also a horse game, by the way. And what they ended up doing is like shutting the whole Discord down, removing or archiving or making invisible every channel. And nowadays they only use it for updates to tag everyone from a company account, because shit was that bad. And from like me watching that from the outside, I saw a lot of red flags in advance of like, why do you let your community talk to you this way? But of course, if it's your first experience with managing a community, that's not necessarily something you notice, or you're not sure how to react, or you're busy launching your game and want to trust your moderators and don't have time to micromanage them. So like that would be the flip side. Like if and that goes into this the shift you mentioned before. Is like, especially in my niche where games tend to be very highly anticipated, because there's generally like a need for more games in this niche, and like it can flip on a dime, and it can turn from like love bombing your like this game is going to be the best game ever to one day after release, I can't believe this game is such a disappointment.
High
ruined.
Intensity,
Yeah, exactly. That exact thing. And so yeah, be very aware that if people consider you their friend, they're also going to be personally disappointed by what you tell them. Funny anecdote, there's people in the negative reviews of Horsetails calling me out by name for overhyping the game and making wrong promises. I didn't promise anything that was like, I didn't promise any features that were not in there, but I said it was going to be a good game, and they took offense.
Never had that happen. But
not yet.
Not yet. Still being pretty personal on the Discord and everywhere. The only place where I really like to stay anonymous is Reddit. Please no, please don't know who I am or whatever, and don't
I
go
use my
play
first
detective.
name on Reddit.
No.
I don't use Reddit.
No. There I'm very happy if people have no idea who I am. But it's gotten a little bit weirder once the studio has gotten bigger, because when I'm like representing the game with me as a person, but it's so many other people and so many other people's opinions also, that sometimes I feel like maybe it should just be a company account. I'm not sure. It's kind of this weird thing. But so far I've stuck with it. Also personal name, face and stuff, and the Discord, and even in the Steam forums. Though sometimes I'm a bit scared.
You should
over
be.
There. So far it was fine. Luckily Marcus helps out a lot also with the Steam forum. No major negative experiences as of yet.
We're all very scared.
As of my face, I mean, we do live streaming. There are videos of me in the video on TikTok and Instagram, and also other people from the team. So yeah, with the community members who are very active, they have like a personal relationship with us. And for the most part, I'm actually surprised. There aren't that many negative experiences. So maybe it's actually possible, even though we have like a very young audience with First Strike. I had some cases where like they wrote like weird Instagram messages to like our First Strike account, but they saw my face in the video and then they wanted to talk with me. But thankfully they were just very young and maybe a bit naive. They asked for my name, even though in the video I say my name and it's written.
TikTok generation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
what's the name of the game? It's on the video.
Yeah, exactly. That's yeah. So, but I was like, when I started my internship at Blindflug, I was prepared to get like very uncomfortable messages, but I was actually positively surprised. So it is possible to be with your face and on social media and actually not get super creepy comments. Maybe I hope it stays like that.
Speaking about super creepy comments, I had one very weird thing happen to me, where I was kind of had a user who had given a negative review. Then I kind of tried to talk with the person. Then we started yamming, and just like feedback. He gave feedback, I gave explanations, he gave suggestions, all totally fine. And then he ended up making a video about it and posted it on YouTube, where he
About your DMs.
about our DMs, and he was
nice.
like commenting like, I wonder what position this person has in the company. They're being so, you know, I don't know, so
Sure.
I don't know. No, not short of that, they're being like too submissive to me in my comment. I bet they're not high in the rank. And they're, oh, it's the CEO. What the fuck? And like,
Especially weird because like.
and then he posted it in our Discord. And I was like, yep, go. Weird.
I think one lesson to be drawn from that though
Thanks for
is like
saving me.
private messages are not private. Like if you use your customer service voice. Use your customer service voice in DMs as well.
Yeah. I'm always
Yeah.
writing in a way that I'm perfectly comfortable if this goes into the newspaper.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Absolutely.
But it's still super weird when it's happening.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, I've kind of ended up embracing the parasocial relationship aspect of it because I am one person developing one game. I've just sort of tried to turn this to my advantage, where I've sometimes taken on a frankly more autocratic style of talking to people than I naturally would. Naturally, I'm very nice and willing to talk, and my persona tends to be a little bit more definite because I also think that there's some people who kind of need that or who will respect that. I'm just like, look, I don't care. These are my rules. This is my Discord.
Yeah.
Go away, or even be like, look, you pissed me off, and now you've pissed me off, and well, you shouldn't have done that.
I've definitely been there, especially with regards to like whenever somebody complains about, I don't know, moderation in my server, and this is a bit special because I moderate a community about a topic and not a game, and when anyone's like, yeah, maybe that should be handled differently, I just like I turn to make your own community.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I like
And
that.
I had that also when we did it for a game specifically. So like when we for the Wild Shade Discord, people were like, well, so we have a few, I don't know, German speaking. No, actually we didn't have German channels because it was a German studio. But like, okay, so we have like people speaking this language. Can we get this language channel? And I'm like, no, because our moderators speak English and German, and that's what we moderate, and that's what we do. Make your own fan communities. Even share a link here. I don't care, but like go forth elsewhere. And very similar to like, I don't know, I've had people come into like, I don't know, I think at some point I had someone complaining that it was a conflict of interest that I report on horse games but also work on horse games and promote my own horse games now. And I was just like, cool. If you think I should not be having the monopoly on horse game communities, there's a really simple solution. You're gonna love this. You're gonna love, just make your own. Put in 5 years of your own fucking free time into moderating this shit, and then get back to me. Actually, you don't, but yeah, you get what I'm saying.
He was just envious of the vast amounts of kickbacks and monetary contributions you get for running that horse game community.
And yeah.
Huge amounts of money, I'm sure. Yeah.
Power.
Money,
I rest comfortably upon my laurels every day.
You own 10 Arabian horses.
Yes.
At least.
Yeah. So I think we're heading towards the end. So leaving the topic of moderation for now.
Moderating us out of moderation.
Yes, moderating out of moderation. Yeah. Last questions I have is, do you have any kind of really cool thing that you've done with your community, or that you've seen some other game done with your community which you think is really interesting, is inspirational, or whatever?
I think Philo's already made a few examples, right?
Yes,
like,
you have.
I mean, basically, hype through, or like generating hype through community management is sort of your speciality, right?
Right.
She has a separate talk on that. It's on the Gamespace Discord somewhere.
Yeah, go for it.
Watch that.
I don't know, what cool things have we done? I think one thing that I personally like again, as the weirdo who's built up the horse game community is that by now people can just come into our Discord and say like, hey, I'm making a horse game. What, like, I'm having a problem with this, and then people will be like, I can give you feedback on your thoroughbred anatomy and like and stuff like that. So like I love the knowledge that we're gathering there, and like having that relevant resource for people to use. That's something that it's not a community life hack. That's just something that I enjoy happening.
Yeah, I never would have managed to make niche without all the horse, cat, and dog breeders back in the day in my Facebook group who corrected me on every single thing I did wrong. So and I also never would have finished this game, I think. I don't know, for me, I'm not good working isolated as a single dev on my little thing, and if nobody cares, then I'm also stopping to care, especially if it's full of bugs, and you have all these new sparkly ideas over there that don't have all of these bugs that you currently have to fix here. And then if people are there and they just ask you like, hey, I really want to play the next update, when is it coming? It really gave me this motivation that I needed in the beginning.
For me, it's like because connected to the First Strike Discord, we did like almost weekly for a while live streams where we played the multiplayer mode with like the hardcore fans, the most active members, and there you could really feel there were like there's a connection, and we have like inside gags and things that keep happening and that we remember, and also we had one fan that sent us like a fan package or like a gift, a big with like he's from the USA, and it was full with USA sweets, but also fan art connected to the game, and he told us that we should open it during the live stream.
No,
so this was
really
like
cute.
a really nice
could have
event.
been bad.
Yeah,
That could have gone horribly wrong.
I mean, we did a little peek. So
Smart.
Yeah. But yeah, we noticed that it's probably food, and then something with paper, and then it was like a letter from this user, from this fan, and this was really actually really heartwarming, and
That's really cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, how could we not talk about the fan art?
Yeah.
Fan art
Yeah.
is the best thing, even if it's
Yeah, fan art.
steampunk boobies.
Anything. Yeah, fan art, also just a weird fan culture that grows up. Like my Discord has so many really weird in-jokes at this point where they've just fixated on some things in really weird ways. I mean, weird animations that are incomprehensible to normal people. It's great. It's great. It's weird, but it's great.
And it's just the best thing when you get a picture of Onbu drawn by a 4-year-old.
Oh.
It's just the best. Then you're like, wow. Now it feels like when I was little, when I was drawing my favorite games, it kind of feels like the circle has closed.
Okay, I think that's a lovely upbeat.
It is. That's a lovely way to close.
Thank you so much.